In the quiet suburbs of Mississauga, Ontario, a young boy named David Pokora spent countless hours in front of his computer screen. The glow of the monitor illuminated his face, his fingers dancing across the keyboard. David wasn't a social butterfly. He preferred the company of his computer to crowded hallways and noisy classrooms. He found solace in the logic of programming, the elegance of algorithms. His analytical mind, coupled with a thirst for knowledge, led him down an unconventional path. He devoured books on programming languages, spending hours poring over complex lines of code. David's skills grew with each passing day. Among the many technological marvels that captivated David's attention, video games held a special allure. He gravitated towards the Xbox, Microsoft's flagship gaming console, drawn to its sleek design and powerful hardware. The Xbox, with its closed ecosystem and proprietary software, was considered a fortress by many in the hacking community. Cracking its defenses was seen as the ultimate prize, a testament to one's technical prowess. For David, the Xbox represented more than just a gaming console. It was a symbol of the growing power of corporations, their control over technology, and the information it contained. The challenge of hacking the Xbox became an obsession. He knew the risks, but the allure of the challenge was too strong to resist. David's journey into the world of hacking didn't begin with grand ambitions. His initial forays were far more modest, driven by a thirst for knowledge. He started small, experimenting with basic hacking techniques. Online forums became his training grounds. He immersed himself in communities of like-minded individuals, absorbing knowledge from seasoned hackers. His first targets were websites with lax security. He'd deface websites, leaving his calling card behind, a digital graffiti tag announcing his presence. As his skills grew, so did his ambition. The internet in the early 2000s was a different beast. It was a wilder, less regulated space, where the boundaries of what was possible were constantly being pushed. For someone like David, it was a playground of endless possibilities. Online forums became his virtual hangout spots. He joined communities dedicated to gaming, programming, and hacking. David found himself drawn to a particular forum dedicated to console modding. The forum was a treasure trove of information. David spent hours poring over these threads, his mind racing with possibilities. David's first foray into the world of console modding was with his trusty PlayStation 2. Following the instructions he found online, David carefully opened up his console. He soldered wires, replaced chips, and flashed custom firmware onto his console's motherboard. His PS2, once restricted to playing only official game discs, could now run backups, homebrew software, and even games from other regions. Word of David's modding skills quickly spread among his online friends. What started as a personal hobby soon turned into a side hustle. He found satisfaction in helping fellow gamers unlock the full potential of their consoles. But David's ambitions extended far beyond simple console modding. The allure of the digital underground proved too strong to resist. David began frequenting more clandestine corners of the internet. Here he encountered individuals who made their living cracking software, stealing data, and disrupting systems. David, initially hesitant, was gradually drawn in by the allure of quick money and the respect he garnered for his technical skills. He began participating in conversations about cracking DRM. His reputation as a skilled console modder preceded him. He was approached by individuals involved in the Forays scene. The lure of the digital underground with its promise of excitement and recognition proved too strong to resist. David's initial forays into the world of software piracy were tentative. He started by cracking small independent games, testing his abilities and refining his techniques. He joined a small, tight-knit group of hackers who specialized in cracking console games. They communicated through encrypted channels, using aliases and code names to protect their identities. As David's skills progressed, so did the complexity of the challenges he undertook. He moved on from cracking small, independent games to tackling bigger, more high-profile titles. His successes didn't go unnoticed. Little did he know that his actions were attracting attention from another, far more formidable adversary, the authorities. While David had achieved a degree of notoriety cracking PC games, the Xbox presented a different beast altogether. Microsoft, known for its robust security measures, had fortified its gaming console with layers of protection. David began immersing himself in the world of Xbox hacking. He scoured online forums, frequented IRC channels, and connected with other hackers who shared his obsession. His bedroom transformed into a makeshift lab, filled with soldering irons, oscilloscopes, and various Xbox development kits. He spent countless hours experimenting, pushing the console to its limits. He knew that Microsoft had assembled a team of talented engineers to protect their creation. His persistence, combined with a healthy dose of luck, would eventually pay off. David's breakthrough came in the form of a zero-day exploit, a previously unknown vulnerability in the Xbox's software. The exploit he discovered resided in the Xbox's DVD playback functionality. By crafting a specially formatted disc, David could trick the Xbox into running unsigned code. This was a major breakthrough, as it allowed him to bypass the console's security checks and execute his own software. Developing the exploit into a reliable tool was a painstaking process. David spent weeks refining his code, testing it on different Xbox models. He documented his work meticulously, sharing his findings with his trusted circle of online collaborators. The console, once a closed garden carefully curated by Microsoft, was now wide open, ripe for exploration and exploitation. David, despite his technical prowess, understood the limitations of working alone. He knew that to truly maximize the potential of his exploit, he needed help. He needed a team, a network of individuals with specialized skills who could assist him in developing the tools and applications that would make the Xbox hack accessible to a wider audience. He reached out to his trusted contacts in the hacking community, individuals he had collaborated with on previous projects, people whose skills and discretion he had come to rely on. He shared his discovery, carefully outlining the exploit and its potential, gauging their interest and willingness to participate in what could be a game-changer for the console hacking scene. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Word of David's Xbox exploit had spread quickly through the underground, and many were eager to be a part of it. Programmers, developers, and reverse engineers from around the globe volunteered their time and expertise, drawn together by the technical challenge and the allure of being part of something groundbreaking. A loose-knit yet highly effective team began to take shape. They communicated through encrypted channels, using aliases and secure communication protocols to protect their identities. They divided tasks based on their individual strengths, working collaboratively to develop the tools and software that would unlock the full potential of David's exploit. David felt an undeniable thrill as he and his team chipped away at the Xbox's defenses. Each line of code cracked brought them closer to their goal. It was a high-stakes game against Microsoft's engineers. Fueled by caffeine, David often lost himself in the work. His parents thought it was just teenage angst and a passion for video games. The team's progress was swift, developing custom dashboards. They replaced the Xbox's default interface, granting users access to new features, including homebrew applications, game backups, and OS modifications. The Xbox became a blank canvas for gamers. Word of the hack spread through online forums. What started as a niche project gained mainstream attention. Gamers embraced the hack, sharing tools and tutorials. David became a legend in online forums, poised to disrupt the gaming industry forever. Unbeknownst to David and his team, their activities had not gone unnoticed. Microsoft, alerted to the increasing prevalence of modded Xboxes appearing online, had assembled a dedicated team of security experts and legal professionals to investigate the source of the breach. They were determined to identify and bring to justice those responsible for compromising their flagship console. The authorities, too, were on the case. The FBI, working in conjunction with international law enforcement agencies, had been monitoring the online activities of known hacking groups. including those involved in software piracy and copyright infringement. David's name, once confined to the shadowy corners of the internet, was now on their radar. The investigation was methodical and relentless. Undercover agents infiltrated online forums and chat rooms, gathering evidence and identifying key players. They analyzed server logs, traced IP addresses, and monitored financial transactions, slowly piecing together a digital trail that led back to David and his team. While David and his collaborators had taken precautions to conceal their identities, using aliases, encrypted communication channels, and proxy servers to mask their locations, they were not infallible. They had left behind a digital footprint, a trail of breadcrumbs that, in the hands of skilled investigators, would ultimately lead to their downfall. The net was closing in, and the world that David had so carefully constructed around himself was about to come crashing down. Ignorance, they say, is bliss. And for a time David existed in a state of blissful unawareness, basking in the glow of his accomplishment. The Xbox hack was a roaring success, its reach extending far beyond what he had ever imagined. He was a digital folk hero, his name whispered in hushed tones among gamers who saw him as a liberator, a champion of their right to modify and tinker with their consoles. But the real world, with its laws and consequences, had a way of intruding on even the most carefully constructed digital utopias. The authorities, though slow to react at first, were not oblivious to the growing popularity of the Xbox hack. The financial losses incurred by game developers and publishers, coupled with pressure from industry giants like Microsoft, spurred them into action. The investigation, initially a blip on the radar of law enforcement agencies, quickly escalated into a full-blown pursuit. The FBI, working in conjunction with international partners, dedicated significant resources to tracking down those responsible. Cybercrime units, once relegated to the fringes, were thrust into the spotlight, tasked with unraveling the complex web of digital trails and identifying the perpetrators. Unbeknownst to David, his every move was being monitored, his online activities scrutinized by unseen eyes. Every forum post, every file shared, every late-night coding session added another brick to the wall of evidence being constructed against him. The net was tightening, slowly but surely, constricting the digital world he had built for himself. The first sign that something was amiss came in the form of subtle changes in the online landscape. Forums that were once havens for freewheeling discussion about hacking and modding suddenly became more cautious, their virtual walls plastered with warnings about increased scrutiny from law enforcement. Familiar faces, aliases that David had come to recognize and trust, began to disappear, their accounts going dormant overnight. Then came the whispers, hushed rumors circulating through encrypted channels, of arrests being made, of homes being raided, of computers being seized. It was a slow trickle at first, easily dismissed as paranoia or exaggeration. But as the weeks turned into months, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, harder to ignore. David, despite his youth and relative inexperience in the world of high-stakes hacking, couldn't shake off a growing sense of unease. He had always known that there was a risk associated with his activities, but he had convinced himself that his technical prowess and careful planning would keep him one step ahead of the authorities. Now, doubt began to creep in, gnawing at the edges of his confidence. He started taking additional precautions, using stronger passwords, encrypting his hard drives, routing his traffic through multiple layers of proxies. He urged his collaborators to do the same, stressing the importance of operational security. But deep down, he knew that these measures might not be enough. The authorities were closing in, and it was only a matter of time before they caught up to him. The day David's world came crashing down began like any other. He woke up late, his bedroom still shrouded in darkness. He had been up late, working on a new version of his Xbox dashboard. He stumbled out of bed and made his way to the kitchen. His parents were already at work. It was a Saturday. For David, it was just another day to lose himself in the digital world. He poured himself a cup of coffee and headed back to his room. He settled into his chair, the familiar feel of the keyboard beneath his fingertips. He took a sip of his coffee. He was about to log back into his computer when he heard a noise. He paused, listening intently. There it was again, a muffled thud. He got up from his chair and crept towards his bedroom door. The world seemed to spin as David opened the door to his bedroom. Standing there, in his own home, were two men in dark suits, their faces grim, their hands resting on the holstered weapons at their sides. Behind them, David could see more figures, their silhouettes filling the hallway, their presence radiating an air of quiet authority that sent shivers down his spine. "David Pokora?" one of the men asked, his voice devoid of emotion, his gaze unwavering. David could only nod, his throat suddenly dry, his mind struggling to process the scene unfolding before him. The reality of the situation slammed into him with the force of a physical blow. This was it. The game was up. What followed was a blur of activity. The agents, identifying themselves as FBI, moved with practiced efficiency, securing the house, confiscating computers and electronic devices, their movements swift and silent, like predators moving in for the kill. David, still reeling from the shock, could only watch helplessly as his world, the digital kingdom he had so carefully constructed, was dismantled piece by piece. His parents, arriving home from work to find their home swarming with law enforcement, were beside themselves with worry and confusion. They knew nothing of their son's double life, the secret world he had been living in, the crimes he was being accused of. All they knew was that their son, their child, was in serious trouble. Yes. The legal process was a whirlwind of unfamiliar faces, complex jargon and life-altering decisions. David, a bright but naive teenager, was thrust into the criminal justice system. His overworked public defender struggled against the prosecution's mountain of evidence. They painted David as a ruthless hacker who defrauded corporations, highlighting financial losses to Microsoft and game developers, and the potential damage to the gaming industry. The judge ruled that David's actions had real-world consequences. David was sentenced to 3 years in a juvenile detention center. David Pokora's story became a cautionary tale for a generation increasingly reliant on technology. The digital realm, for all its allure, was not a lawless frontier. Actions had consequences even in the world of bits and bytes. The digital landscape had evolved, and with it, the stakes. Cybercrime had morphed into a tangible threat, impacting businesses, governments, and individuals globally. David's case forced lawmakers, law enforcement, and the tech industry to confront cybercrime. The digital age demanded accountability. David's story was a tragedy on multiple levels. A brilliant young mind, driven by curiosity and a thirst for knowledge, had been ensnared by the allure of the digital underground, his talents misdirected towards criminal pursuits. The consequences of his actions, however, extended far beyond the walls of the juvenile detention center where he served his sentence. The weight of his mistakes, the knowledge that he had betrayed the trust of his family, his friends, and the online community that had embraced him, took a heavy toll. The stigma of a criminal record followed him long after he had served his time, casting a shadow over his future prospects. The tech industry, once a natural career path for someone with his skills, seemed forever out of reach. His story served as a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge, while admirable, should not come at the expense of ethical considerations. The ability to manipulate technology, to crack codes and bypass security measures, was a double-edged sword. In the wrong hands, it could be used for malicious purposes, causing harm to individuals and institutions alike. David's case underscored the importance of mentorship and guidance, especially for young people navigating the often turbulent waters of the digital world. Parents, educators, and the tech community as a whole had a responsibility to foster a culture of ethical hacking, to channel youthful curiosity and technical prowess towards constructive pursuits, to ensure that the next generation of tech wizards used their powers for good rather than for ill. David Pokora's story, while undeniably a tragedy, also served as a catalyst for positive change. His case, with its high-profile nature and far-reaching implications, shone a spotlight on the growing problem of cybercrime, forcing lawmakers and law enforcement agencies to take notice and adapt their strategies. New laws were enacted, cybercrime units were established or expanded, and international cooperation in combating digital threats intensified. The tech industry, too, took steps to bolster security measures, recognizing the need to protect their systems and their users from increasingly sophisticated attacks. David's case also spurred a conversation about the ethics of hacking, about the fine line that separated legitimate security research from criminal activity. The concept of ethical hacking, once a niche concept, gained mainstream acceptance. Security professionals, armed with the knowledge and tools to identify and exploit vulnerabilities, were increasingly sought after by businesses and organizations eager to shore up their defenses. The digital landscape, while still fraught with risks, was becoming a safer place, thanks in part to the lessons learned from David's mistakes. His story, once a cautionary tale, was evolving into a reminder of the importance of vigilance, responsibility, and the need to harness the power of technology for the betterment of society. Technology evolves rapidly, connecting billions worldwide, but with this interconnectedness comes vulnerability. The cat-and-mouse game between hackers and defenders continues. As security measures advance, so do cybercriminal tactics. The battleground now includes vast cloud infrastructures and critical infrastructure. David Pokora's story remains relevant, highlighting human vulnerabilities. The challenge is fostering ethical digital citizenship. The most effective defense is a collective commitment to ethical conduct.